morning, and welcome to New Hope. Today we're going to imagine ourselves into and dream about and think about, and hopefully we trust in God, experience a bit of that maker of heaven and earth. And the lens that we're going to look through today is, of course, the Bible, always the Bible to begin with, but with Bible-laden eyes, we're going to look through another book called Horton Hears a Who. I don't know if you're familiar with it. If you're of my age, you had it read to you when you were a kid, and hopefully you're reading it to your kids if you've got them. This is the party edition, which I got at HMV. Going like, what kind of party do you have around this book? But the idea is that God is the maker of everything, and God created Dr. Seuss, and his imagination in a whole bunch of ways is reflective of the imagination of God. And his ability to create other worlds is like a God who creates other worlds. And in this story, there is truth and beauty and something meaningful and right, which points to a different story, a bigger story. As people of faith, we've all probably faced it, those questions from others on what have you based it? We say we believe in something unseen, a still small voice. Yes, that's what we mean. And I'm sure you've probably faced the questions more honestly than my little bit of poetry there for yourself, either from other people who aren't into the faith thing and have heard what you say you believe, maybe even if you're honest at times in doubting questions within yourself. You know, is there really this other world, God, an unseen reality, this thing we profess to believe in? Does it really exist? You know, is there a who? And what do I believe about who you are, God, in a world that has suffering and mystery and things are upside down and so wrong, so many places? Why that kind of world? Why that way if you're there? Sometimes I even wonder, in my job, are you really there? And I love this first animated take on Horton Hears a Who. Does anyone remember it? Okay, me and everyone else with gray hair. The young girl at HMV looked at me like I was from another planet when I asked for this particular version. No, that doesn't exist. I said, yes, it does. Just believe and look on the computer. I love that animated version, and that clip sort of captures it because it not only, like the book, talks about an elephant who hears something that nobody else hears and is trying to convince the world that there's something more here, but it does it from the opposite perspective and gets right down onto that little dust speck into Whoville and introduces us to Dr. Whovy, who, like a prophet of sorts, is trying to convince the people there's something more out there. There's a big elephant, and we're on the end of a piece of clover being carried around. There's another world out there. So it's sort of this two-way building out of the story. Phooey to Whovy. Old Whovy's a jerk. The prophets got the same treatment often, and so did Jesus Christ. In reading Horton Hears a Who again this week, just took special note of the different responses to the gospel message of a Whoville existing, this crazy idea of another world. And Horton, of course, is an early adopter, and he believes and he has faith in this other world. Jesus once said, I tell you the truth, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a little child, like a fool of Nool jungle dweller child like Horton, will never enter it. But others in the Horton Hears a Who story were not as childlike. The uppity, sour kangaroo that we met, you know the type. Liberally minded, enlightened souls don't believe in mysterious other worlds, and this is all there is, and what we see with our material and scientific eyes is what's true, and there is no other truth beyond that. People who know, really know how the world works. She, that kangaroo, had no room for such an absurdity. "I think you're a fool," laughed the sour kangaroo, and the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too. You're the biggest blame fool in the Jungle of Nool." Jesus, talking to his disciples, but referring to another group who knew how things worked and had their religion figured out, the Pharisees, once said, "The knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of God has been given to you, but to others I speak in parables," stories, spiritual stories, "so that though seeing they may not see, though hearing they may not understand." And many of those Pharisees who knew the world, knew how it worked, had no idea what was real and what was true and who was telling them this wild and crazy story. They didn't know the truth about what Jesus proclaimed again and again in the parables about the kingdom of God, a central theme of what he came for to tell us about, that there's another world, another way, a different direction, a different message, not performance-based, grace-based, a gift of God, a different way to do life. And I'm here, and who's here in me is God with you. And I'm not just here, I'm everywhere. God is moving in this mysterious kingdom, this place where the will of God is reality in the world, and it's in us, and yet it's behind us, and it's around us, and before us, and after us, and mysteriously here, while all the while we live this touchable, knowable, mere mortal life.